Hi and welcome back to the Training Academy of Physical Science students. So today we are going to basically discuss the first law of Newton and the basics you need to learn that law. So starting on, what is a force? So force simply is a push or a pull, right? Right. So I want to address this law in a different manner by drawing a diagram. Imagine an object like this at rest. Are there any forces acting on this object? Yeah, there are infinite number of forces acting around this object. How do you tell that? So, if there are many forces, why doesn't it move or change the state of its motion? Just pause the video and think of it. If so many forces are acting around this object, then why doesn't it move from rest? I'll make it easy. I'll just represent some forces acting around it. Forces acting around it like this. Okay? Now what do you think? Why? Isn't it moving from rest? Right. You're right. Even though there are an infinite number of forces acting around this object, all forces cancel out or balances. So actually there is no net force. The net force in this object is zero. How did I know that the forces balances? It's the same thing. The object is at rest. That means no forces. So if the object is at rest, that means no unbalanced force on it. Or you can tell it in another manner. When an object is at rest, no unbalanced forces. Same thing in the opposite. Same thing in a different manner. It's like this. You pull a person from one side and another person pulls you from another side, from the opposite side, with the same magnitude of the force pulled by the other person. Eventually it hurts, but you will not move in any sides. Yeah, that's the scene. With that, I want to define what an unbalanced force is. So as shown here, an unbalanced force is a push or a pull. The same thing we told as a force, a push or a pull, which we told it as a force. But here comes an unbalanced part. So what changes with an unbalanced force is that push or pull changes the state of motion or changes the velocity of the object that the unbalanced force is exerted on. Do you understand it? Yes. So the difference between an unbalanced force and a force is that An unbalanced force will definitely change the velocity. The same thing the state of motion and velocity is. It will change the velocity or state of motion of that object which the force is exerted on. Now, imagine another object. This time it's moving at a constant velocity. Now, as you know, there are many forces acting around this object. But are all the forces balancing in this occasion here? It's moving in constant velocity, okay? Pause the video and think about it. If you couldn't think of a reasonable solution, then go back to the definition of what I call an unbalanced force. What is the necessity for an unbalanced force? The velocity should change, right? The velocity should change. But here what I define this object is moving at constant velocity. Constant. So actually, there is no unbalanced force exerted on this object. It will continue to go with this velocity without any force, without any unbalanced force. So moving on, up to now I have given you the basics of Newton's first law. So I will give you the definition or the law. So here is Newton's first law. Until an unbalanced force is exerted. Very important. Until an unbalanced force is exerted. Objects at rest remains at rest. Objects moving at a constant velocity will continue to move in that same velocity. Rest remains at rest, constant velocity remains with the same velocity. So it's the same two examples which we discussed first before coming into this law. Now with that, I have to check your understanding on this. I'm going to ask you another question. Imagine an object moving around a circle. At a constant speed. What do you think about the forces acting on this object? It's moving at a constant speed. Is there any unbalanced force exerted on this object? Okay, we'll go back to the definition of an unbalanced force. What is the necessity for an unbalanced force to exist? A change in velocity, right? A change in the state of motion. Is there any? Give your answer carefully, right? There is. Why? Same speed, right? But here comes the definition. The velocity should change. But here, the speed doesn't change. What is the difference between speed and velocity? The direction. Here, even though the speed is constant, the direction isn't, which means the velocity, which has a direction too, not only the magnitude is changing. So according to the definition, there is an unbalanced force. So before ending this session today, I want you to find the answer for this. So to which direction is this unbalanced force is exerted on? Think about it until we meet in another video where I will give you the answer and understand it better. Yeah, I'll keep you down. Okay. Hope you got a better understanding on this lesson. Newton's first law will made soon with the Newton's second law.